So there you go. We are now live in the I Love You Me community in Facebook. Welcome, family. Thanks for being here with us. And those of you as well that will see the replay on YouTube, thanks for being here. I am really super excited and very happy and feel very blessed to have this beautiful soul with us this evening, Sacha Stone. And Sacha right now is in Bali. He's graciously agreed to speak to us, and it's quite late at night. And for those of you that don't know already, I'm just going to do a quick intro on Sacha. If you don't already know him, Sacha is kind of an ex-rock musician. I don't know if you still play rock music, actually, Sacha, maybe you do, but you definitely have been a rock musician and artist. And you're one of the great speakers, I would say, a leader speaker for human rights, sovereignty, natural justice. You're a founder of Humanitad and the New Earth Project, which is a blueprint for sovereign and sustainable communities. And you're also the founder of the International Tribunal for Natural Justice, which is a new planetary court. And I, amongst probably many, many others in this group, were following you throughout the year on these on the videos that you've been putting out, and they're just fantastic. So before we launch into anything, I think a lot of people, especially in this community, have just asked me to express a great deal of gratitude to you and a great deal of love for everything that you've put out. You've made 2020, you know, you've definitely given it some sparkle and a lot of depth of information and put a lot of hope out to everybody. And yeah, we're all super grateful and we love you. So thanks for being here.
I was hoping that I was being a real pain in the ass to the status quo, actually.
You probably were a pain in the ass to a lot of people, but you were also a real blessing. You know, you're a heralder of messages for a lot of other people. So I guess it just depends, you know, what rocks your boat, really.
Sure. Yeah.
So first of all, I just want to check in. How are you doing? I mean, it's nearly the end of the year. It's Christmas Eve. How are you feeling after this, you know, after everything that you've done this year and just right now in yourself?
Well, my own kind of life was put on hold quite a while ago, so I don't really have too much of a kind of personal space to be musing in. Not for the last 7, 8, 9 months. It's been really full on. I mean, the World Health Sovereignty Summit stuff and the Judicial Commission of Inquiry earlier this year, which took up a hell of a lot of time. And in the last few months, I just decided to do back-to-back media punditry, really just to articulate a kind of whole system fuck you to the status quo and be able to verbalize that on behalf of so many people who can't verbalize it because they are, you know, stuck behind masks and quarantined and all the rest of it. I'm not. I'm living in tropical paradise here, and it's, you know, obviously the island's economy is collapsing, and it's had a terrible effect on everyone. But that notwithstanding, I'm in a good position to be able to throw a V sign at the establishment and really articulate that disgust, that contempt, that frustration. And more than that, to be able to also articulate solutions and pathways for remedy, because that's really what it comes down to. I am not going to be letting this year stand. I don't allow a fiction, a government, a United Nations, a World Health Organization. I don't allow a parent corporation to conduct this kind of abomination against me and against my family of humanity and let it slide. It doesn't slide from here. They're
not being good parents, are they, really?
Well, they were never
self-professed parents.
They're dirty, pedophilic old uncle, more like it. And I mean, but the point is, I'm here to articulate remedy, pathways for absolution and redemption for ourselves from the travesty of our own lives, being trapped in governments and being trapped as wage slaves and being trapped within kind of religious holograms and all the kind of cult programming that has essentially indentured us into our own misery cycle and the cycle of war and disease and poverty at the civilizational level. But the good thing, of course, about the geometry of now is that it presents us the greatest gift always, always. And the gift right now is for us to be able to see for the first time in stark contrast that this is the net gain of what we have architected and permissioned into reality. So does it serve us? No. Does it serve the living? No. Do we find this an acceptable format for moving forward in 2021 and beyond? No, we don't. That's great. We've learned a great deal.
Totally, we have. And you are quite an artist with language, so you do really articulate so brilliantly, I think, so, in so many ways that people couldn't. And you know, I actually have to reach for a dictionary sometimes listening to you, Sacha, I have to say.
My apologies. That's not the intention, but
no, it's brilliant. It's good.
I do like the idea of jousting. I like the idea of jousting with some of the kind of Oxbridge and Yale and Harvard set, the kind of, you know, those kind of serpentine creatures that slither out of the blue chip universities and the Ivy League universities, and then slither into position as what I call the Davos man, you know, where they take up their preeminence as acolytes of the status quo and really proxies of the old draconians who've been driving all this blood cult and cult programming for so long. So there's a new generation who've slithered into play, but they don't have the grasp, but they don't have the capacity to hold on to that matrix. It's crumbling. Either which way, it's crumbling. It's not going to be with us within, you know, for sure 3 years from now, 36 months from now, it'll be over. And within 10 years, there won't be a single government left on earth. I know this already. I know there will be no government left because it will have been outlawed under its own rules of engagement, essentially.
Absolutely, I agree completely. So you just said it was new. The contrast is new, and it is new for a lot of people being able to see this for the first time. I think in the collective consciousness, particularly, there are some of us though that have, you know, probably like yourself, much like yourself, have watched this coming for absolutely ages. But I think now more than ever, with the information, thanks to our internet, is just everywhere, and thanks to people like yourselves going out there and researching. And just for our viewers' sake, could you just share quickly, like, how you come to have such a fine degree of information and knowledge on this?
Not through research is my answer. So I'm not a researcher. I just qualify that point. I'm not a researcher. I've never been a researcher. I don't read books. The last book I read was in 1997 or 6, I think. But I stay away from reading anything at all other than white papers. I read executive orders, white papers coming out of governments, boring stuff, really boring stuff. I read constitutions, I look into law, so I'll read that kind of bullshit, but only in order to have a grasp of the extent of the depravity and the manipulation that's going on using law. And that's my interest in it. I despise law. I have no intrinsic interest in it, but I chose to get interested because it occurred to me many years ago that if we didn't establish a new jurisdiction ourselves, then we would always be indentured into this false light satanic jurisdiction that's been architected for us. And that was where I started to understand that everything was contracts from the moment you're born into this world until the moment you die and tumble into a coffin. It's still all part of a contract. And the contracts are securitized. And then I established the International Tribunal in 2015 after 2 or 3 intensive years of kind of planning how to do it and understanding more or less how to do it. And that we've done that. I'm now also a judge on another big international tribunal right now that's already indicted about 130 of the key figures behind the COVID scam. And I'm also in the process right now of dialogue with some very, very important people on establishing an Earth tribunal, a new tribunal to deal with the hereditary claims and of the First Nation peoples, and to bring about a real reset, a real redemption and absolution event globally, or planetarily, I should say. So I'm very involved in law, even though I despise it, because it is the language of the snake, of the serpent.
And of course, natural law is like something that is kind of all of our template, is our blueprint. which has been massively smeared and conditioned and, programmed in so many ways. And I think a lot of people find it hard to know where to begin to come back to that blueprint, how to dismantle or disconnect from or disobey, the unnatural law. There's been a lot of fear put into human beings for thousands of years. It's not just a matter of the last few hundred years, is it? From the industrial age and, those big families, names coming into our knowledge. It's been going on for thousands of years. Do you have anything to share on that, like where you feel like it came from or when it originated?
Well, what are we talking about? The origin of evil, the origin of what?
No,
exactly?
I would say particularly enslaving us as a humanity into, and programmed by fear into kind of acquiescing, if you like. I know you love that. I love you always say acquiesce. I love that word. Acquiescing to this evil, to the people that, or beings of control.
I understand. So that's a matter not of what's being done to us, but about what we're permissioning. And that's the master switch. The master switch is to recognize that you were always the one granting permissions. You cannot be exploited at the soul level. We are all of us indentured fully against any kind of demonic possession, any kind of addiction, any kind of abuse or manipulation or domination. We are inured to it as sentient spirit when we're birthed into this world. But there are incremental moments at which we're invited to surrender that sovereignty. And there's a lot of temptation to do that. So there's something called a trial of separation, which begins at birth. And I won't bore your audience or mine, for that matter, with explaining the machinations of the trial of separation as it relates to being birthed into a mutant paradigm. And that's to do with how we no longer remember the true craft and art of birthing children into any world. Well, what you don't do is birth them in a place called a hospital. What you don't do is allow a strange male in a white coat with steel scissors to cut an umbilical cord. What you don't do is ever, have strangers take the baby, swaddle it, and walk out the room with it and circumcise the kid. All of that stuff that we do is beyond. It's absolute butchery at the soul level. So we're the ones who are essentially incrementally traumatized from birth all the way through. The entire complex of nursery schooling, and then primary schooling, and then schooling proper, and then college and university. All of that complex is toxic, mutant. All of that serves to defile and desecrate our natural inquiry, our natural skill enabling, our natural propensity for bliss and for elevation of art and beauty and consciousness as it relates to our understanding, innate understanding of what those things are. When you're being told by some professor in a beard how to paint or how to sculpt or how to throw a ceramic pot, I mean, it's absurd. All that is doing is foot binding you or mutating art. So there are a few exceptions with the Steiner school and the Steiner schools and the modeling of Montessori and also of Krishnamurti schools, one of which Brockwood is in the United Kingdom. My family have been involved in that for many, many decades, or at least two or three decades. So there are schools that exist there. You've got to really find them, where they will receive the children and sit on the grass and tell stories and listen to the kids. And the teachers and the kids are just part of an interplay, a kind of very healthy ecology. That's how we ought to be doing it. The Africans call it Indaba, my children. I've spoken to them a great many times, but it's where you sit underneath a masasa tree and you listen to one another's stories. And it's through the stories and the shaping of dreams and dreamscaping that we really elevate ourselves and remember the majesty and the ancestral songs and the dynastic songs inside our blood, which of course are all connected to my own soul's journey to this quadrant, to this vector of time space. And this soul that you're looking at and talking to here is incredibly ancient, as is the one I'm looking at. And that soul's journey is beyond labyrinthine in its complexity, its beauty, its magnitude, its depth, it's the stories we could tell. If only we could speak to them, if only we could remember them, if only we had a world that received our stories, the true stories, not the ones where we have to go make shit up and then come and sell lies to one another called advertising, or Netflix television series, and all of that bombardment of false iconography and false idols and archetypes is all a surrogacy. It's making up for the vacuum that exists within, because the true stories remain untold in a mutant world that doesn't invite our soul stream or our soul song. That's an insane proposition. And that's what we have to recognize in moving forward, that number one, you don't need a fucking government. You don't need church or state ever. Get rid of these godless constructs. Be okay about stepping back from all religiosity. Be okay with throwing the Bibles and the Qurans and all these things onto the metaphorical fire, because they do not serve the living, they serve the dead. It's all cult programming. And I'm a man who loves very much the teachings of the Master Jesus. I'm a man who loves deeply the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita and the Mahabharata. I'm a man who loves deeply the true intrinsic nature of Kabbalah. And I'm a man who loves deeply the Hadith and the Surah of the Quran and the teachings of Prophet, peace be upon him. I get all of that. I'm a student, I'm a scholar of that stuff for many, many years. And when I was younger, and I see the mystical traditions and there's some beauty there, but that's it. Boom, bada boom.
It's all written in our soul history, really, isn't it? I mean, we've kind of been there, done that. It's not where we are right now. And I just literally, just before we hopped on here, I just finished watching the Uluru conference that you spoke at. You posted it a few days ago. It was amazing. I mean, a lot of the questions that people asked you and what you spoke on there, I was actually going to ask you myself, but I recommend everybody just go and watch that Uluru video. It's absolutely brilliant. But in that, you said this is the end of time and we are the aliens we've been waiting for. And I think a lot of people know the Hopi Indian prophecy, we are the ones we've been waiting for. And everyone's been saying it, for at least 12 years. And here you are saying we are the aliens we've been waiting for. And I just love that, when I was young and I was a teenager, I used to say to people that my perspective on aliens, that they're our future uses coming back to help us get through this period and to help wake us up right now. And
there's an element of truth in that. I mean, it's really true when you talk about, I don't know if it's the Zeta Reticulans, but or the Alpha Draconians, but there is a species of alien that certainly Al Bielek spoke to a great deal, who come back from I think it's a 27,000 and a 45,000 future timeline. And it's kind of, they are what we become when we continue to live through this, quote unquote timeline. Not that timelines exist in and of themselves, but to speak in those reductive terms, if we do continue to destroy our planet in the same way that we destroyed Mars, absolutely, and then deplete the ozone and we defile every biological organism and we send up, a mushroom clouds so that the entire atmosphere becomes, filled with depleted uranium. And then within a few generations, all biological life forms die. And all we can do is quickly play catch up, but technologically, and try to keep ourselves going, our genome moving forward, but using artificial intelligence. And then ultimately we do end up being that little gangly, ugly, smelly little gray alien creature that is coming back now, abducting us into spaceships in order to get into our sperm and into our eggs and try to replete their own depleted DNA and genetic expression. And that's why for the last 60, 75 odd years, there's been such an incredible bombardment of the humanity through abductions, because that was a part of a military deep state compact that was cut under the kind of Eisenhower era, or certainly connected to the Tool Society and the Project Paperclip, the Nazis in the 1940s and 50s, who were exfiltrated to the United States and became essentially the scientists who were the birthing of the deep state. It was all a franchise from the Nazi bunkers. So that is all connected to the story of future aliens who were permissioned to come back into our atmosphere because we were sending off atomic bombs. And if you send up an atomic bomb and split the atom, you literally tear a hole in the fabric of time-space. And that's what atomic bombs do. And that's why they're so incredibly dangerous. The isotope frequency coming off depleted uranium itself is so diabolical that it creates an interdimensional beacon or a flare that is a permission granted to negative and malevolent ETs to now come in and seed this earth. We are the ones who did it. We granted the permissions. So again, everything is permission-based in this universe. That's part of universal law.
It is. And it's all us, really, isn't it? It's all us. Like being the end of time, the way that I've been experiencing it is a bit like coming to the end of a soul cycle. And actually many people like myself remember, you know, past incarnations or past experiences as beings. And it's like the thread being pulled through all of the beads of different lifetimes, and the beginning coming back to the coming to the end, or the end coming back to the beginning, the Ouroboros, you know, that completion of a certain soul cycle. And I think it's inevitable. It's a done deal, isn't it, that this was going to happen. And I don't believe that the destruction of this earth was ever going to be allowed. No. I think that we have had to, you know, almost teach ourselves a lesson in order to grow, to evolve, to almost come to that, you know, planetary extinction point for our DNA to somehow activate and catalyze those apparently sleeping, you know, or junk DNA, which I don't believe.
No, well, exactly. But Tara, there's something else there in what you just said, and that is that I think you would find that this planet is more replete now ecologically than it's been in millennia. So that all of this deceptions and lies about the complete ravaging of the rainforest and what have you, this is highly dramatized. I'm not saying it's not important stuff. Of course it is. One ought never to cut down a single tree under any circumstances, unless the tree gives you permission. And there's ways of asking trees permission.
I love that.
We do it here where I live.
Absolutely.
In Bali, we do it here. But the point I'm making is that the sort of melting ice flows and polar bears drifting off on packs of ice is bullshit, all lies, deceptions. The climate change hoo-ha is a goddamn deception dreamt up by George Soros, the Kissinger, Brzezinski, Bush, Obama, Clinton crime cartel, who are all part of the Texas oil, Gulf Texas mafia, which is connected to the House of Saud and the Bush family, who are the owners and progenitors of the Federal Reserve, Jekyll Island, which goes back to the genesis of the United Nations, the League of Nations, the Rhodes Round Tables, the Sabbateans, the Zionists. They're all Jesuits. They're all connected. And it's a very simple pathology to go back to where and how these Fabianist, Marxist cultural devils began their little play on trying to do a monster land grab of the entire earth through the parent corporation, and to defile and sack the fabric of culture and the mystical traditions of all peoples of the world, which they've tried to do. And then to begin to implement this language called helter-skelter, which is what you're seeing now with the Democratic Party in the United States, when you've got this sock puppet Joe Biden pretending to come into power, which of course he won't. Trump is the president assured for the next 4 years, and then there'll be a return to a constitutional republic in the United States. So, you know, it's all over. All of this game of two-party politics is essentially coming to an end anyway. Yay. But the point is, it's all part of a miasm of a language called helter-skelter, which is where the Sabbatean, which is to say the Luciferian satanic Babylonian priesthood that has always been in the basement, so to speak, and driving the agenda, so to speak, which is how the weaponization of Christianity and the Council of Nicaea, 4th century AD, moves to become the Vatican complex. And after Doomsday 1066, which was a very important dateline, what was important about 1066? Why was Doomsday what's the doom element? You ask me, this is 1,000 years ago. That was connected to how in a sense, we began the process of tabulating land and circumscribing land on charts and maps, and then saying, okay, well, I own this, you own that, we own that, the king owns that, the baron owns that. So it was the tabulation of land essentially, and the codification of that into the Doomsday Book, and the registration of souls, living people, into fictions. Whoa, wow. Jesus, wasn't that a bit of juju, black magic? So taking living souls and turning them into a registered item, a fiction that's entered into a book, a ledger. And then the land also now becomes contracted and turned into a tabulation and entered into a ledger. It is the ledger and who owns the bits of paper now that matters, not the actual people of the soil. Do you get it? So
Totally.
So clever. It's a dislocation of the living souls, living sons and daughters of God from the living soil, and then turning us into contracts, pithy contracts, bits of paper, deceptions, lies. And that's how law emerged. So law then emerges as the language of indentureship and contract and commerce. That was the whole business of admiralty law, mercantile law. This was the workings of the Phoenicians. And the Phoenicians kind of eventually became the Venetians. The Phoenicians became the Venetians, as in Venice, as in black nobility, as in the papacy, the Vatican complex, the Opus Dei, P2 Lodge, the Jesuitical order, pure Satanism. I mean, evil shit all the way up to today. And then that infiltrated all the crowns of Europe, and not just Europe, but also the Ming dynasties and the Meiji imperial dynasties and the, going back to Kublai Khan in Mongolia. All of the big dynasties, dynastic royal dynasties, were infiltrated by the Jesuits, essentially all around the world, from Bophuthatswana in southern Africa all the way to Alaska. Fact. So all of the true kings were overthrown through stealth, by the confessor priests, the Jesuits, who managed to curry favor and get into the bedchambers of the kings and queens as the confessor priests. Why? How did they do that? They did that by lying through their teeth and saying, we don't want any land. We're just confessor priests. We're Jesuits. We just wear sackcloth and a little rope around our waist. We don't want land. We don't want gold. We don't want titles. We can't take wives and husbands. That was their little game. But they can
murder people for not believing.
Yes, they were answering to
they're allowed to do that on their sacred
They were answering to the superior general in Rome. So they were the first CIA, the first intelligence operatives for the Jesuits. And they own today the CIA and Mossad, MI5, MI6, and every intelligence agency in over 195 countries around the world. So that's how we were asleep at the wheel, Tara. Good people, good living people of the soil were asleep whilst the Babylonian priesthood were indenturing us and fictionalizing us and then unitizing us and then securitizing us. Whereas now you are worth, 20 odd million pounds sterling if you're in the United Kingdom. If you're a 50-year-old man or a 75-year-old man, you're going to have a relatively higher value to your birth bond. But the point is that we are all fictionalized, indentured to the crown, to the state, owned by them, penalized by them, ultimately poisoned by them, which we're about to learn en masse through the vaccination program.
I can't wait for people to learn more about that. There is, when you're talking, Sacha, there's so many branches that we could take this off. I just want to say, didn't they do a good job at convincing us of separation and kind of doing that job of the separation?
No, we did a great job.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
We did a great job.
As a collective, we did a great job, and that's why there is no victimhood in this. It's like we're all of it, aren't we? We are the collective. We're all of it put together. And it's you mentioned the Doomsday Book, and my father recently sent me a piece of paper where our family crest is actually in the Doomsday Book, and we're mentioned in the Doomsday Book. So that was a we, in literally in my lineage. Bless us and forgive us for what we didn't know. But I think I'm a soul reader. I don't know if you know that. I think I may have mentioned it when we met last year. But essentially, from my experience of reading people's soul energies, and my experience of, let's call it the Illuminati, or those who would wish and who have conspired to tear apart this fabrication of humanity and own everything and whatever, that agenda, when I speak to them directly, and we're talking energetically now, okay, so and everything for me I get from the direct records. I'm not much of a book reader or a news watcher or any of those things, but when I tap into that energy and I speak to it, and I ask them what's actually happening, and they say this is for the highest good. In that, and what I mean by that is that it's like humanity has to, in order to understand who we are, in order for that self-realization to really awaken to that which we are, we've had to go down this epic journey of experiencing all the variables of that which we're not, essentially.
Sure.
And that piece of the creation, if you like, that malevolent piece of creation, or apparently malevolent piece of creation, which is doing a super good job. We've been doing a super good job of that. Is actually part of the big picture for us to be a force of awakening eventually, to be the kick up the backside for humanity to go, hold on a minute, no. And it has to get so bad to the point when we say, we're no longer choosing that. We have complied through ignorance or you know, apathy or naivety,
Yes.
but now we're no longer complying. We're awake to it because those forces are so in our face now. They're so dark, like we can't much ignore it any longer. But this, and I wonder what you think of this, because it's all for that realization and for the evolution of humanity to make a choice to no longer do that. What do you think?
We are the Adam, the Adamite. The Adam is in a sense the fulcrum of between good and ill, between the dielectric universe and the paramagnetic planes, telluric planes of the earth. We are also the kind of kiss point between the diabolical and the angelic. We contain this kind of capacity to be this or that and to morph between the two. And there are no rules. There are not any rules with the Adamite. With us, there are no rules.
No,
we can soar to the greater heights, and we can plunge to the gravest depths, and we do. But the point is that when you take that, we are the cauldron of creation, essentially. Yeah. And this Tara, this earth plane Tara, which you are named after, is the true name of this earth, this Tara. And she is the cauldron of creation. She is the true mother and the true womb. The moon is not the mother, was never the mother. The moon is at best a diabolical, masculine, patriarchal technology masquerading as a feminine energy, but it's not. It's like a cross-dressing, perverted uncle, like I mentioned earlier, that same creature, and masquerading as the feminine and interposing itself between the sun, the umbilical that connects the sun and the central sun of this earth. The central sun of this earth is a sun within the hollow earth, with this plane. All round planets are hollow. You cannot have a solid planet. They would collapse in on themselves. So there is a central vacuum, and within that inner earth, so to speak, is an iron crystal dodecahedron within a central sun, and that central sun is in phase conjugation with the outer sun, our solar system sun. And so that they were always in perfect balance and equilibrium. Absolutely. Connected through this umbilical. And when the moon was steered in to our earth plane, essentially, and interposed exactly between the sun and the earth, it cut that hyperdimensional energetic cord. And that is where mutancy and death and decay and disease and mortality kicked in. Not as a bad thing, as part of a covenant, a collective soul covenant, that we needed to be cut off from source for a time, for a period of time, in order to move back and fall back into the abyss, in order for us to be the progenitors of the new fabric of soul that would emerge, and thereby giving expression to the lower realms and the lower intelligences to be able to find their way towards formation. So there's this constant kind of galactic and cosmic ballet going on. There is. Where the creation of soul is being forged quite literally through the worlds that we choose to steer our plasma through. That's a beautiful thing. So I don't see any part of what's going on here as being a horror story. I mean, I grew up in a war. I know what horror is, but the point is that when you truly arrive within self and you step into that flame absolutely naked, and you burn off all the hubris and all that you think you know, and then you find that you are in that quanta, you become reconfigured and reconvened with the Atman, which is with your higher self, so to speak. And in that state of grace, because that's what it is, believe me, that's the state of grace, then you have access to the so-called universal mind, to the Akashic library. You have access to it. You think of a question and the answer is self-revealing and self-fulfilling. You don't need to TikTok and map intellectually to get an answer because you are connected to the quanta. This is called typhonic consciousness as well. And this is the consciousness of the unborn child I'm describing here as well, that's floating in its mother's womb, that typhonic state. So we are invited as adults to move, or as emergent souls in this world, we are invited back into that typhonic consciousness. That is what prayer and meditation is desperately seeking, a reconvention with that state of inner bliss, where all you are is in interconnectedness with the Alpha and the Omega. You're able to draw upon the universal mind, so you have the intrinsic knowledge and wisdom flame in and around you at all times. You don't need to reach for the book or the, you just don't need to ever do that ever. It's all here. It's all connected to the Atman. And that's the gift that we now, Tara, are going to see emerge at the collective level, courtesy of the gravest existential threat that's ever faced us, which is ourselves, operating as people, Anthony Fauci and Bill Gates. Because these are the icons that we are expressing in the field. They've not happened to us. They're not coming at us. We are invoking them. And if we were reconciled within the vacuum of self, the inner self, if we did not have those tremendous vacuums internally with these perverse archetypes that are unresolved within ourselves, which is the perverted, sociopath philanthropist, motherfucker can't decide if he's a sociopath or a philanthropist. I can tell you he's just a purebred draconian, but he's a very good one at playing this game. He's very, very formidably good at it. In the same way that Hillary Clinton, who was a high Wicca witch, came very, very close to owning the nuclear buttons in this world. And dear God, she was dribbling to get her fetid claws on the nuclear codes, because that tormented bitch was planning to bring the world into a thermonuclear holocaust. That was what she was bred to do. And it's certainly what she was set to do. The plans were thwarted nonetheless. There are all sorts of Celestine hosts that are also playing on this chessboard through us and with us.
Well, the Daily Mail told us that a week ago.
What did they tell us?
They said, according to the Israeli former chief of security or whatever it was.
He was the space
chief. The space chief for 30 years came out and said that the Pleiadians were helping Donald Trump, and it's like, we kind of knew that anyway, but it's been out in the Daily Mail, so now everybody, it's kind of funny.
Yeah, and for sure, I think Trump was designated back in 1968. His soul compact was assured. Look, people are going to wake up very, very soon to the kind of hyperdimensional state of our reality, and the fact that what we think we know, ambling down Oxford Street and ambling into Selfridges to have a cup of tea. I mean, really, Mildred, come and sit down, dear. Okay, it's just not the way it is. But I appreciate that for a period of time, we were very much asleep, and that was needful as well. That was a necessary time.
You can't wake up unless you're first asleep, and that's the beautiful part of it, isn't it? And what do we dream, and the whole thing. I mean, so many things, Sacha. That state that you're talking about, that you call Atman, I refer to that as the divine child. Being the perfect union of bliss and unconditional love, that absoluteness, isness, with the divine feminine, with the divine masculine, with Mother Earth, completely intact and sovereign in all of duality, in the black and the white, and knowing one's father self, and knowing one's mother self, like knowing Mother Earth. Like for me, when you talk about the central sun, that's something I've seen, I've spoken to, and it's very real for me. And I completely relate to it. And knowing that has also myself, not something separate from me or far away from me, but as myself. And how do you feel people can actually, like, I guess it's a submission, but it's an empowerment to come into that state? How do you do it? Like, do you have a certain...
No, I don't have any practice. I never did. I've never prayed or meditated for one instant in my life. I did do yoga feverishly when I was very young, but I've not had any practice, so to speak. Well, what I practice, I guess now, if it's not a discipline, but is foundational truth, but I do that with myself. So since about 1997, I had the blessing and the curse of having a full shamanic death and rebirth, and that experience was, for me, the way I survived it and didn't go mad or leave this earth plane was by going into the shamanic death fully, absolutely fully. And what I learned in that space, and I was gone for a long time, about 2 weeks, I was completely gone. And then it took me a good 6 months to kind of venture out my front door, essentially, and then 2 years to reconfigure. Absolutely took 2 years to reconfigure. And I did that in the Moroccan desert. And then I started living between Egypt and Morocco for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, to begin my work, because I was very clear once I'd resurrected from that shamanic rebirth. I was very clear about where I was going, and I was connected at that point absolutely to what you refer to as the central sun. The Atman is not a gender and it's not an age, so I would never refer to it as a child, much as I loved your descriptive of that universal child. The Atman is the closing of the Alpha and the Omega. It's the full capacitance of Alpha and Omega being in phase coherence. And it's also the hyperdimensional jump gate to divinity. So it's also the technology that each of us are born with as a human being. And it's also the thing that the negative, malevolent ETs want more than anything else.
Yeah.
Okay? They want
Hence, don't take the vaccination.
Yeah. Why do you think the adrenalized blood of infants is so delectable to Molochites and Canaanites and devil worship?
I can't imagine.
You know, it's the false light. They're able to steal the Promethean fire by imbibing that blood and having a rush of bliss, a rush of stolen, albeit stolen divine light. Yes, yeah. But then that stolen blood is also the poison. It's what turns them, the Babylonian priests, get turned by that blood and then ultimately find their way back toward light or become space dust. One or the other.
Anti-life.
Like, sorry, Carrie.
You can't behave in a manner of anti-life and expect to be okay, really, can you?
Not beyond a certain point, you can't. And
it's breaking the laws of the universe.
Right. And there are always consequences to that, exactly. Here we've got a classic example in front of us, living as we are at the time of bifurcation, when half of people are choosing to wear masks, which is a death wish. Anyone who wants to wear a mask and believes fully in the masking because they believe genuinely that there is an existential threat that intends to kill them, well, they're dead anyway. They're gone. And anyone who's watching this right now and is one of those, I will absolutely look you in the eye, exchange fire in the eyes with you, and tell you categorically you're a dead soul if you continue. If you continue to voluntarily wear a mask and voluntarily be cult programmed by a satanic Luciferian blood cult, government sponsored insanity, then you've already taken a departure. You've already taken the left fork in the road, and there is no rescue mission. There cannot be, because this is end of days. This is the end of the long count Solstice. This is the end of time in that empirical sense. So you really need to retrieve yourself now, today, this week, right now. I'm not even sure if there is time to retrieve yourself. I'll be quite honest with you. I think you probably passed the signature at Central Sun on the 21st of this month, 3 days ago. Yes.
I got that message too. That was the last point. Not to create fear.
Yeah. So the likelihood of anyone who chooses to wear a mask and chooses to roll the sleeve up and get a vaccination watching this show is highly unlikely. Let's be blunt.
Highly unlikely. It's not
all
likely.
the people watching your show are going to be people who are pro-life and who are connected to spirit. But the point
they can
is,
share this to other people, though.
I'm sorry?
They can share this with other people, which will be hopefully good medicine.
Hopefully, let's not imagine that that's going to have much of a difference at this time. Yeah.
Mm. Well, it's still fun for us to talk about it. And, you know, you're talking about that moment from birth. And I'm a big advocate. When you talk about birth and, you know, deconditioning and the sacredness of birth, I'm a big fan. I gave birth very naturally. My friends and followers know that. And I didn't even have any, like, when I was pregnant, I wouldn't go near the hospitals. I didn't have the scans and all the injections and all the tests. I was just completely like, leave me alone. My body knows what I'm doing. The spirit knows how to deliver this soul through my body. And it was absolutely exquisite and blissful and incredible and amazing. And since then, whenever I spoke to Gaia, or Gaia would tell me, teach them to birth, teach them. And it's not just birthing from the moment like you pop out of the vagina or pop out of a cut womb. It's actually from that moment of conception and even preconception, because that's where you can start down that line of conditioning and going through that manufacturing of a birth into that, you know, entity rather than a sovereign being. So I totally love it when you talk about that. Gosh, there's so many things. First thing that jumps out to me actually is the Hillary part. I think a lot of people are curious when the world's going to hear about that. Do you have any thoughts?
That's imminent. That's within days and weeks, not months and years. So that's coming. Look, I was telling very close friends. I know very close friends of Hillary and Bill Clinton. I have mutual, not just one, 3 or 4. Very, I can tell you right now, 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 mutual friends, believe it or not, with Hillary and Bill Clinton. Well, I don't know how they feel about the Clintons now.
Well, I was just wondering, I'm like, they're friends with them and like actual like buddies, hang out, have cups of tea.
So again, that's been over the last 10 years. So it's going back about 10 years. I have on 4 separate occasions had sit downs and intense powwows, intense meetings with friends of the Clintons. Okay.
Yeah, I believe you. You're intense.
Yeah. And the thing is, and what I've done is I turned all of them.
Hey.
Yeah, and these were people whose professions, whose reputations were pegged to knowing the Clintons and hanging out with Oprah and knowing Meryl Streep, but you know, first name terms and so on. So these people took what I said very seriously, but only after I was able to really spend time in showing them and demonstrating what I knew, proving it out. You can't do that in 10, 15 minutes, 30 minutes. I know a lot about the Clintons, and I'll be honest with you, I feel quite compassionate toward both Hillary and Bill Clinton. They are the most diabolical archetypes, but they were absolutely kind of manufactured evil archetypes. It's not like it's not like George Soros has got a lot more depth to his evil. Henry Kissinger has got a lot more depth to his evil. I can't speak about the British Crown, but I can say that the Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton are kind of disposable evil archetypes who must just live in a kind of ongoing playback of hell, like a Groundhog Day, waking up and looking in the mirror and going, oh, fuck, I'm Hillary Clinton.
Absolutely trapped in it.
Oh, fuck, I'm Bill Clinton. Like, could it be any worse? No, it couldn't, frankly. And all of the paraphernalia of the evil empires kind of pegged to their faux celebrity. Now, what happens to Barack Obama and his husband, Michelle? That's going to be an interesting play. That's going to be an interesting play when the people learn the truth about Barack and Michelle. That's going to really, really crack open a lot of people. Now, 9 out of 10 people are going to have nervous breakdowns anyway, because when they realize that every single thing, every single archetype, more or less, that they thought was great and good and noble, starting from watching Bob Hope back in the 50s and the 60s.
It's going to be devastating.
Evil sons of bitches that have been proliferating in Hollywood and in Congress and on the world stage in the United Nations. And they're not all rotten. I've hung out with many kings and queens and presidents and prime ministers and leaders, many paramount chiefs, you name it. You know that about me. I've hung out with many world leaders and do to this very day. And I've got a hotline to many, and I know a lot of good people in power and really people. I even know people far more powerful than any president or king, who are the real owners of the collaterals, the real comptrollers of the fate of, you know, economies and so on. And good people who themselves have been battling forces to be able to try and reclaim, like, you know, seats at the Federal Reserve, for instance, and so on. It's just a very, very labyrinthine and complex kind of chess game. Power, empirical power, the pyramid of power. And anyone wanting to navigate that realm has to really go in completely oblivious. I mean, you have to go in not believing that you know anything at all. Otherwise, you'll have a nervous breakdown. And I had that many years ago. I had that in 2006, 2007 was a seminal time for me when I was learning a great deal. It's also the first time I really got close to a sitting president, powerful one, who was also at that time, the president of the European Union as well. And I became close with him for a period of time, and an advisor to him, and speaking to him on a daily basis, and traveling with him to different parts of the world on missions, on which one day I'll speak about.
I'd love that.
Yeah, and it was powerful, powerful stuff, but it was also very, very scary. And I was just fulfilling a function, a role, because I had a foundation, NGO, a foundation that had certain credentials and could be the utility of good leadership. So we were brokering, you know, very, very powerful stuff between the Ayatollah in Iran and the Oval Office. And I was being essentially a courier in that. And my foundation was the front for that initiative, because it had to go through a non-partisan, non-sectarian, non-governmental agency. And I was elected as that agency. But that was the first time in 2006 where I really got pulled into stuff, big stuff behind the curtain. I was like, Jesus, you begin to see how this world operates and how incredibly vast it is, this pyramid of power. And it's just nothing to do with what we think it is. Oh, so Tony Blair gets a popular vote and comes into office. No, doesn't happen that way. Tony Blair is earmarked. Tony Blair is earmarked probably from the age of 15. In the case of Barack Obama, he's earmarked as a youngster. He's one of a number of families that are CIA asset families. He happens to be one of the CIA black asset families that are connected to trafficking and drugs and all sorts of shit. And he is earmarked as one possible future contender as a possible black president. So he's an eye is kept on him. Bright kid, he high scores, yeah, he could do it. And at a given point, when they reckon, yeah, he's got it, they take him off the streets in Chicago, where he was hanging out with his gay buddies in the sauna and doing disgusting things for money. And, you know, they take him at that point, okay, and then groom him and fast track him for presidency. So they rush him through law school. Of course, he never went. None of his fellow students remember him. None of the professors can remember him. Gets his accolades, and all of a sudden, fast tracked into a seat, a Senate seat, or you know. So he's basically leveraged into power, and then fast tracked in to be the first black contender. And of course, he's such at that time, going back 12 years, such a good, smooth motherfucker. The way he could speak and the way he could present himself, you know, and it was just really smooth, baby. And then that whole, you know, era of hope, and he was selling hope. That was his big thing, you know. It was clever. I was screaming from the rooftops in 2008 and telling the world, please do not believe.
I bet they weren't listening to you very much.
No, they weren't. I was being stoned. I was being stoned alive. You have no idea. I was stoned alive and castigated left, right, and center. But all the more frustrating for me because I knew what I knew about Barack Obama. And nonetheless, I was still meeting with people behind closed doors, very powerful people who also knew. And so I had other good people at that level who I could at least relate to.
Yeah.
And I knew I wasn't going mad. I was having it validated, verified.
Yeah, which is
Now,
really important.
yeah, now in 2020, my God, I'm just the happiest man alive because all the stuff is surfacing on automatic pilot. I'm just sitting back for the first time in so many years. I'm able to sit back and go, it's beautiful. The geometry is beautiful. It's the only reason why I have the time and the energy this year and the wherewithal to be speaking in kind of quasi-spiritual philosophical terms, because for the first time I'm able to. I was nose at the grindstone for many years doing frontline activism and political activism and backroom diplomacy and getting shot, guns at the head and poisoned and all sorts of horrible shit happened to me. So that stuff's gone. And I know I'm inured. I know how protected I am. So that's the last thing I'm concerned about now. I'm just really smelling the roses and loving life because of this emergence. And to anyone who's still holding any notion of fear about where it's going, just blow it away. Seriously, when the sun comes up tomorrow, just walk out to put your feet on the soil somewhere, look up at the sun for a second, just blow whatever last vestige of fear you have into the celestial body, because there is no need to hold on to any fear. It is so perfect what is coming, so perfect.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. And one of the things I love about you, Sacha, as well, that you are that validating voice for so many others. If they have a hunch or they've dug up some information or they've tapped into their intuition or their, whatever it is, psychic channeling or whatever it is, you seem to have a wonderful way of validating a lot of other people. So that's a real blessing.
That's nice to hear. Thank you.
I think validating people for who they are is a wonderful thing to makes you, get all brave. I think it's really great. And I love what you're saying. And I have a great deal of compassion. I've always been like this. It's not a new thing for, I used to say in school that I had love and compassion for Adolf Hitler, and I didn't care about learning about stupid wars for me as a kid, as a teenager. Yeah. I was like, what kind of soul incarnates on this earth to do a job like that? He's got to be some kind of a soul to take that much hatred, to do that kind of, horrific work. And so people that you're talking about, Obama, Hillary, a lot of them, whatever their soul's been embroiled into or contracted into, it has to be by their own will for a start, because this is how it works in this universe. But also it's like, sometimes we don't know what we sign up for, do we? We have an idea of, oh, I can do that. And then you get involved and we go, God, what have I done? Now I can't get out. But I have a lot of love.
Some of them are not ensouled entirely. Some of them are walk-ins. In that sense, they've abnegated or surrendered already their soul, so to speak. And they've done that incrementally. I mean, someone like Tony Blair is absolutely damned, absolutely damned. I mean, look at Tony Blair, the former Prime Minister of Great Britain. The man is absolutely damned. He is racked with damnation, stricken with damnation, but and thoroughly deserves it, because there was an aspect of his heart-mind synthesis that was very conscious all the way along, that he was allowing himself to be the utility of pure evil, of bloodlust, and the death and mayhem that was caused, the lives of millions of blessed Iraqis and other people of different brown-skinned persuasion around the world at that man's hands, just beyond the suffrage that occurred through the sacking of Libya, the sacking of Iraq and Iran, Afghanistan, going back Yemen, all of those countries will echo for a million years. But those archetypes are still alive. The Tony Blair, and still seeking relevancy as well, still coming out from time to time, issuing a press release or giving a statement as though he's some sanctified grandfather of wisdom keeper. I mean, the guy should be hanging in the gallows. Everyone knows that. All of these career sociopaths should be shot in the head or hung by the neck until dead. And that's to be kind, because 300 years ago, we would have flayed them alive and boiled them in tar, you know, and hung, drawn, and quartered them. So, but and I'm not promoting capital punishment. I personally don't think that that's appropriate. But I'm speaking in blunt terms. These people have no business walking freely amongst us. None. None. If he'd taken the life, of one 3-year-old Iraqi kid, he should still be atoning for that. But the fact is that millions of souls were laid to waste. And the amount of psycho-cultural and psycho-civilizational rage and flux and psychic energy that is still to be atoned for, that still needs to be remedied. I can see that language. I see that stuff in the ethers. I've always been driven by it. That's why I do what I do. Those egregore energies and the unresolved waves of trauma and sorrow and loss need to find remedy. They need to be brought into equilibrium. And it's going to take some extraordinary work in this world. That's the bit that we now, up to 2021, up to 2030, need to really steel ourselves for, because this next decade is the year of atonement, is the year of redemption. And we're the ones who have to do the redeeming. It's not like baby Jesus is going to descend from the skies and do it for us.
No, take responsibility, isn't it? Take full responsibility and accountability for all of it.
All of it. All of it.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I help people with. I care very much about that. I completely agree with you. I wanted to come back. There's so many things I want to kind of invite you to open up more on. But you talked about your friends in high places who to do with money and governance. So I want to ask you about those two. I know they're completely linked, but two separate things. So one, new governance, autonomous governance. I'm currently involved in a project. It's not coming out publicly yet, but it's to do with an autonomous governance system. And so when you're talking with, with your natural justice colleagues, the things that you do with natural law, is there a system there that you have, or is something even, being dreamed into or created where all beings get to contribute in that? Or, can you speak more on that in terms of governance and where you feel?
Yes.
And also on the money side, before I forget, on the money side as well, do you see a new structure, a new formula, if you like, for how
I understand the question. Look, it's hard for me because I'm the little fly in the ointment, and I'm the ankle biter who's always bitching to whoever I'm talking to at leadership level. I'm constantly caning them and really being very problematic and constantly trying to explain that all government is artifice, all banking is artifice and is wicked, all usury is evil. So I'm an absolutist. I want absolute remedy. I want absolute annihilation of the status quo. I want every single university to be razed to the ground. Leave the architecture, leave the libraries, and raze all the curriculum to the fucking ground. Every last bit of it, because it's so toxic and so specialized and so venal. I want the Vatican complex to be absolutely disassembled and set light
done on the earth all over it.
All of it. All of it. I want all of the crowns of Europe to be completely flatlined. I want the black nobility to be laid out as they ought to be and exposed fully to the light of day. I want redemption for all of the First Nation peoples of the world. I want the song of the ancestors to be heard, so that true redemption in the blood of these people needs to be heard. And I want the end of all advertising. I want the end of all billboards. I want the end of all publications that sell things. I want to outlaw all advertising. Only word of mouth should work, whether you're a restaurant or you're a clothes maker. Your reputation should only pass organically from human to human and through the ethers. It should be lied about in word and bond on paper. So because that's essentially where the where the pornography of our lives emerged through the deceptions, through words being maligned and misused. I understand that much. I'm clever enough to know that.
You are
And that
clever.
all law should also be eradicated. All the law books should be incinerated. And all the courts, all the jurisdictions should be eviscerated. So to answer your question, it should go back to living men and women of the living soil, conducting trade or commerce and exchange unfettered, unmolested by any third-party intervention. That's all. That's it. So no usurer, no banker, no priest, no teacher, no doctor, no one coming in as the intercessionary. Doctors don't heal. They poison you to death. So get rid of doctors. Okay? You won't need nurses if you get rid of doctors, because it's doctors and doctoring and the pharmaceutical sponsoring industry that sponsors doctoring that is responsible for the desecration against the human genetic expression. So get rid of doctoring, all of it, all hospitals, or you don't need them. You just need trauma, but trauma wounds can be dealt with nettle and a river, a running river and nettles and sunshine. So don't give me this bullshit that, yeah, I think that there are, whilst we're living in an artificial cityscape, to have hospitals dealing with trauma is a very good thing. Motorcycle accidents are ugly. I've been in one. That kind of thing. But when you get back to the soil, the worst trauma is a branch falling or coconut falling on your head. So what kind of a life do we want to reimagine? That's the thing. That is where the question we should be asking ourselves constantly now. Only we want an end. I want to see an end to all cities. So cities, the Tower of Babel should disintegrate back into the soil and be taken back over by the jungles. We should decentralize back into communal living and village life and all the rest of it. Get back to the soil, get back to the rivers and the streams and what have you. Technology, absolutely. Love technology. Love ET technology as well. I love it to death. And we can work with it. And cities can be repurposed and retooled into being great big egalitarian learning spaces of great sensory experience. That's great. That's beautiful. But get rid of the wage slavery. Get rid of all of the industrialization of anything or anyone. So all of those systems of dominance and control and manipulation and conquest, they should all be removed because they don't serve the living. They serve the dead. What's the dead? The dead is the corporation masquerading as a government that indentures all of the living souls into registered certificates, birth certificates, death certificates, and paper bonds. So that's the distinction for me. You want to talk about natural law, baby? Let's talk really natural law, which is barefoot in the living soil. That's it. And then the fractality of nature speaks pure law to us. It's called natural law. Natural justice is the Fibonacci, the golden principles, the crystal spiral dynamics. It's the natural formation of the Song of Ages. When we start to listen to it again, when we can hear it again over the din and the thrum of automotive engines and jets in the sky and all of that stuff, we need to move beyond. We don't need to have aircraft making horrible noises. They could all be flying silently. We've got the technologies. I spent an hour earlier today on the phone, and how blessed am I to have done so, with an individual, I'm going to say, an individual who is commonly regarded by the greatest physicists in the world as being the greatest physicist amongst them. And I had an hour speaking to this individual. And what this individual told me was that they are ready now, today, she said, forget the med bed, forget the med beds. There is something way ahead of the med bed, way ahead of that, ready to roll, as long as we get the systems out of the way, as long as the impedance is removed from the way. We've got the capacity to create replicators right now. Okay, just a few summers away, given the right resources, we can create replicators, press a button, and what you see in Star Trek with a bowl of Brussels sprouts manifesting in front of you. You know the question I asked this scientist? I said, okay, you're saying to me that we can now essentially, in the next few years, get into the mainframe replicator technology, that everyone can have a replicator that can reconfigure the atoms, the molecules, and of the ethers into whatever the ism is, what the vector or the coordinate is that's identified. And the scientist said, yes, absolutely, we could do this. And I said, okay, if it's If it's a spaghetti bolognese, God forbid, there is meat product there. Okay, yeah. But how can you replicate a meat product if it didn't come from an animal? And can you still draw the nutrients from this in the replicator plate of food? The answer was yes, absolutely. All the nutrients would be intact. There would be no death of an animal involved. So go figure. We know how to triangulate what the geometry is in the atoms that make up a meat molecule, a ground beef, organic beef molecule, or a wheat pasta molecule, or a Brussels sprout molecule. We know that vectoring so we can configure. So we're at that point now. My point being, Todd, that speaking to this incredible scientist early today for an hour, I was assured that replicated technology is with us certainly before the year 2030. It'll be mainstream. As long as we get rid of government and bank. The governments and the banks, which is the same thing, have to get out of our way. And then that will be made available for everyone. But the scientist said to me, think about it. Which government or part of the pyramid of power on earth, from the Vatican to the Pilgrim Society to the Council of Foreign Relations, all of these, which of them would want or would allow for replicator technology to hit the high street or hit the consumer? Because once we can push buttons and manufacture this Macintosh that I'm speaking to you through, this very expensive laptop that I've got. So you press a button and that thing, yes, correct. So we don't need to exchange money very shortly for anything on earth. Once that technology comes into play, and that needs to be powered up, and there's tremendous power consumption that's required for replicated technology. So we need to take care of the over unity piece first. That's the first bit of tech that needs to be freed up to come to market. And then there's folding space and creating jump gate technology between this and that, and so-called jump gate technology, which again, I was assured today is absolutely with us now, 100%. And that should be made available not to hyper compartmentalized elements within the kind of deep state or the secret space program, but it must become available to humanity. Can you imagine where we go as a species when the sequestration of all of these hidden technologies is released? And when they stop assassinating scientists who are fighting, mathematicians and physicists who are trying to get these technologies into the hands of living men and women of the living soil. So that's kind of, with the takedown of the Trump takedown of the deep state that's happening right now, that's going to free us up in the next 10 years to be able to accelerate rapidly into this massive kind of developmental phase of vanguard sciences. By the year 2030, absolutely, we're going to be at that point. And then by the time we hit the big micronova event in 2046, and we need to have a Tesla shield around the earth at that point, it'll be a piece of cake. It's a done deal. So the ascension, the mechanical, material ascension process of our planet and our species is absolutely assured, either which way.
Wow, that's far out. Well, I was like, what about the inner technology of us? Because as, let's say, still asleep, fairly ignorant human beings, and we're developing, I'm saying we, as in, we're going back to we're all of this, developing technologies which sound absolutely incredible and seem to solve everything. And I'm like, I kind of want to talk about light codes and how it formed, how that kind of informs literally matter particles, because that's what you're talking about, right? You're talking about going back to those very adamantine particles and photon light and the transmission of light codes. It's a bit like how God, it's exactly how God speaks to the feminine, or how the sun speaks to the consciousness of matter. That's how things are formed with those light codes. And it sounds similar to that. But I'm like, in order for a technology or any technologies to be in the hands of human beings, don't we first have to evolve our own inner technology in order to be responsible custodians and be conscious enough to make good use of that, and not to just go back over the same old stuff we've done before and or worse? I feel like what you're saying is the next 10 years we take our own heads and we open the top of our heads and we turn ourselves upside down and we shake out everything that's been implanted in and start fresh and come back to that.
So thank you for the question, because that for me is the perfect question. And that just pushes me further to another arena of focus, which is, yes, absolutely 100%, 1000%. The fact of the matter is that the need for a Macintosh computer or a mobile telephone or a pen to write something down or a light bulb to switch on at nighttime, all of these things are part of a illusory principle anyway, which is the absence of Atman, the absence of supernature, the absence of our psionic activation. So yes, the fact of the matter, I know as a spiritualized being that I don't ultimately need a Macintosh. I don't need a computer to codify ideas because I can bank them in the ethers. I don't need to communicate through this because I can activate Merkaba and I can meet you in the astral and we can have our conversation there. Right, in an idealized state. I can also telepathically commune with those that I'm intentionally wanting to commune with. So yes, all of these tools, and I don't need a plate of spaghetti bolognese, God forbid, or a much less Brussels sprouts, because ultimately when I'm in synthesis with Atman, I can draw all my nutrients in purely through the ethers. I don't even need to do sun gazing. You can just bring it in through the ethers. We move into essentially the mortal template of the rainbow body in the living state, and we have no need for food. We don't need water. We don't need food. Fact. There are people today living that way. Fact. And I can speak to that at great length, incidentally. So yes, in the idealized framework of an actualized Atman state of supernature, we don't need a replicated technology because we don't need to replicate anything. Yeah, correct. And we don't need to create technological jump gate technology because we can invoke Merkaba and bounce there anyway. Absolutely correct. But you see, technology and toys and all of this stuff and all of this paraphernalia, all of this stuff is just images being projected into the field that we totemize and we manufacture and manifest in order to express to ourselves the fact that we need to go even further with this technology. And ultimately, we don't need all of this stuff. So that is also part of a kind of totemistic stepping stones on the way towards true Atman self-realization. And I'm just saying that in the next 10 years, we can begin to enjoy the process of playing with hyperdimensional, time-bending, space-bending capacitance. Yeah, why not? A lot more fun. Star Trek's a lot more fun than working in a gulag in Russia in the 1930s. You know, so whatever it is that we want to dream, that's the point. The point is we should just be dreaming the dreams that we want to manifest. That is the point. That's the ultimate technology in the human, is our capacity to project plasma and in ideation, and then that extension of life force that we are putting into the idea is what manifests in the realm and emerges as our framework of reality. That's who and what we are by design, those creatures. And that's why all other realms of expression seek to circumvent us or to commandeer us or to parasite off us, because they very much need to steal that Promethean fire from us.
Oh my goodness. So first of all, yes, we are still beings of the third dimension. That's what one of the things that makes us so unique and incredible and special in this known universe is we are the only beings that I know of anyway, maybe you can tell me differently, that are living in this third dimension and still awakening to source consciousness and all that we are. So third dimension is fun. Of course, we get to touch and play with all these things. So brilliant, you know. And at the same time, what you're saying is about the dreaming into plasma, that's what I see as fifth dimension. That's the new earth, isn't it? That's the new earth experience, and everything we've been coming through the last lot of years is almost our initiation to go into that new earth.
Yes.
To prepare us that actually we understand we do have these abilities, and to clear out all the crap so that you're creating your dreams, you're creating your beauty. And when you were sharing your list, Sacha, when you were sharing your list of, you know, in answer to the money and governance question, you just shared your list of what you are dedicated to, what you believe in, what you dream into. And I almost felt like I could hear everybody who's listening to you saying that just going completely crazy and clapping and cheering and just be like, yeah. So I totally love that. Might just cut that little piece out and just put it on replay. It was brilliant. I love it. So I was going to ask you about our star brothers and sisters. You've been doing some videos recently and doing the energetic signatures of various beings, which was kind of
fascinating. Fascinating.
Kind of fun.
Well, we're doing a show tomorrow on Christmas Day. We'll be doing a 2-hour live show tomorrow, which I'm really looking forward to. And that's where we're revealing all the planets, all the star systems, inner Earth, the moon, hollow moon, inside the moon, surface of the moon, dark side of the moon, Halley's Comet, Chiron, all of these sort of signature, the biggest archetypes and icons in our cosmological screen. We're going to be doing the frequency readings on, or revealing them tomorrow.
Wow, is that live?
Yeah, it'll be live. Yeah.
What time?
I think it's 2 p.m. UK time, 10 p.m. Bali time, I believe, my time, and 9 o'clock Eastern Standard. I think, I can't bloody remember.
Yeah, no, I can't, but I get confused. And I was in UK time, and now I'm in the south of France, so I'm in Europe time, and I get really confused. But anyway, Can I find that on your YouTube channel?
I'm just checking the time here. So 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So yeah, that'll be coming on the YouTube's various YouTube. Right?
Happy Christmas! Wake up, go switch Sacha's Stone on and learn about aliens. What a brilliant way to spend Christmas! Welcome to the new Earth. Do you have a particular kind of resonance, or I don't know, kinship to any sort of race of star brothers and star family?
No, none at all. I like the Arcturians. I think they're super sexy. I feel now an affinity growing there. Look, who cannot have an affinity to the Arcturians and to the Andromedans and to the Pleiadians? Essentially, those three for me are just remarkable. But beyond all of them, way ahead of all of them is the Alpha Centaurians. Way ahead, like 8,000 or 9,000 on the scale that doesn't even exist. The scale is so vast it doesn't even exist. But the Alpha Centaurians came out as being just off the chart. The only thing that is the highest registered frequency of anything ever taken, ever, is our sun, 10,000. And the inner sun of the Earth corresponds absolutely to that. That much I will share with you. So that is remarkable findings, enough to make someone like me.
That's our potential, because
that's the point.
Cell of that being.
Yeah, that's the point. The point is that the sun is the life-giving thing in our solar system. It's the greatest, most affirmative, life-giving thing that we can cogitate, and it's not going anywhere. And the lying sons of bitches who control academia have been trying to tell us for the last 1,000 years that through their own mutated science, that, the sun is burning itself out and one day it'll, whatever. The sun is as Dan Winter, the physicist, my dear friend, insists, the sun is a great big hyperdimensional eyeball that's looking into this quadrant of time space and is not going anywhere, and nothing comes in or goes out without coming in through the sun or leaving through the sun, which is why if you study the sun through infrared, and you will see all of those hyperdimensional craft flying in and out of the sun. Constantly we can see those movements taking place.
Wow. I keep having, like, as you're talking, I think of things and I go, I want to ask you about that. And then by the time you finish the sentence, I'm just like, oh. Oh yeah, that's right. I was in the bath, I think it was April. And I hadn't talked to Pleiadians for ages, and they just came through really strong. I was in the bath and they said, pack your things, it's time to go home. And it was just wonderful. And I was like, well, what do you mean? Like, do I empty the garage? Do you pack a suitcase? Like, what do you mean? And it was just like, yeah, wrap everything up. You don't need anything. Just come empty and we're all going home. Like, we're all going home to that place of, I guess, divine recognition or peace or unity or whatever words we can put on it. And I feel like that's always been a done deal. But it's been an incredible show. It's been an incredible experience along the way. Gosh, everything else seems kind of irrelevant after that. If I ask you about, you know, the Queen or 5G, it all seems a bit pointless.
Oh yeah, no, let's not go for 10,000 of the readings of the sun.
I know what I wanted to ask you. So do you know, because I think a lot of us heard about the crystal activation happening at Uluru on the 21st. Do you know any information about that, about what happened?
No, I'm told this, that, the other, and I see this, that, and the other, and I'm connected to some of the Aboriginal elders, and I'll certainly I can find out. I mean, I'm not particularly interested, to be honest with you. I'm not that excited about the totemism and the iconography of that. I was interested in the closing of the Long Count Sulkin and the end of time, which is why I was very happy to address the gathering at Uluru, and I was very honored to as well, because I regard Uluru as being the center, the navel of the world in a cosmological sense, a cosmogenetic sense. So it's very happy to if you're talking about the magic box technology and activation, it's neither here nor there. The stuff has all been, look, put it this way, the fate of the fabric of human soul does not depend on a magic box or a crystal. Never did, never will.
What about Donald Trump? Does it depend on Donald Trump?
No, absolutely not. Donald Trump, again, Donald Trump is a delightful archetype that's being manifested in the field, projected into the field by the collective plasma, which is also connected to the unresolved aspects within ourselves. If we didn't have daddy issues, we wouldn't be having male leaders in suits and ties on the world stage. If we didn't have mummy issues, we wouldn't be manufacturing turgid archetypes like Mother Teresa and whatever, any of it, even Princess Diana, all of these kinds of Madonna-esque type archetypes. We wouldn't be projecting archetypes out there and idolizing them, full stop, end of story. There would be no celebrity. Celebrity is an atrocity. The idea of celebrity is indentureship to false light worship. Wow, how embarrassing, how undignified for me to acknowledge that as a human being, that I am indentured into false light worship, that I like to idolize, Beyonce or whoever the hell, Eric Clapton. It doesn't matter. All of that celebrity stuff is highly toxic. I saw that when I was involved myself many years ago in the rock and roll circuit, and just seeing how that feedback worked. And I'm not dissing celebrities themselves. I know some top-ranking AAA listers myself, and I'm very pleased and honored to know them and to take phone calls from them from time to time and bump into them here and there, have dinner here and there. That's a beautiful thing. And I know a lot of middling celebrities, and I know a hell of a lot of kind of step one celebrities as well. It's all fucking nonsense. All of it. The whole goddamn lot is nonsense. I personally stepped away from any kind of adrenalization of my blood connected to sitting down with a king or a president or a celebrity. It's just whatever. I'm really a hermit nowadays. I live very, very quiet in Bali. I'm very connected, but I lead a very sedentary life. I never go to parties or nightclubs, ever, ever, ever. I used to. I haven't been to one for years. I don't go out. My life is like this. I mean, I'm interesting, meeting people coming in all the time, and
yeah, you always have a lot going on.
Yeah, a lot going in like that. But even at the parties at my own home, which are pretty legendary here, up to 1,000 people turn up to my parties at Akasha, at the New Earth Haven, which is my home. And I built that place 15, 16 years ago. In the last three years, it's become a kind of mecca for, a lot of, gatherings since we established the New Earth Haven there. And that's beautiful. And 600, 700, 800, 900 people can turn up there for a party, and it's a beautiful party. There's no alcohol. There's never any violence. We've never had a single incident ever in 4 years. We're not likely to. Right now, of course, the island is dead. But the point I'm making is that even when the parties are happening at my place, I'm very rarely seen now. I stay across the road at my villa. Just not interested in that stuff anymore. It doesn't do it for me. What does it for me is conversation, is true inquiry, is manifesting bold initiatives that can, treat this world as this beautiful prime canvas and put these beautiful, great big calligraphic brush strokes on. I want to define reality. I'm looking to define this world. I'm not looking to be defined within it any longer. I don't need to seek relevancy any longer within self. I've done that in multiple careers, multiple this, that, and the other. I'm just really now about wanting to fashion and forge the most beautiful, elevated reality that's imaginable. That being the key word, imaginable. Yeah.
I really hear you. That's beautiful. Do you have what would you say to young people and children of today? Do you have a message for them?
No, absolutely not.
You just open your head and listen instead.
Yes, I would absolutely sit on the grass and listen to it.
It's just one of my people in my community. She asked specifically because you're firstly known. Well, you got known, I suppose, as an activist to a lot of people. And she was asking. She has teens, and she was asking, what advice would you give to her teen children to?
Oh, that's different. Teenagers I could rap with, but look, any young children, I would simply listen to them. I have nothing to teach them, nothing to offer them. I've got everything to learn from them. Teenagers, slightly different. I like angry, pissed off teenagers. I love them because I understand that spirit. I understand that fire, and I really know how to communicate to them. But there's no generic or universal message. Generally speaking, if I'm going to try to impart any wisdom flame to youngsters, it would be about the need for them to stand at all times in the flame of honor within themselves. And I know how to express that in 5 minutes to a youngster, how incredibly powerful that makes you as a soul for the rest of your life, to always remain inside your honor. So don't go against that. Don't move against your conscience ever. And if you can learn not to move against your conscience, never to be tempted by the other kids or by the drugs in the nightclub or by, that chick on the beach who's, whatever, just don't move towards an idol. Don't move towards a sensation. Don't feel the need to move toward something that is offering you and saying, come. That if you can learn to hold your center and absolutely not move toward something of desire until it's foundationally organic within you and issues from within you. I want to pluck that flower in life, then go forth and pluck it. But don't go forth and pluck it because there's someone saying, oi, or the flower is saying, come and pluck me. There's a huge distinction there. And it's connected to finding that equilibrium within, which is also the art of irreverence. So that's the other thing I talk to younger people about. If I'm blessed enough to be talking to a teenager, I will be speaking about the need for them to cultivate that flame of irreverence. Irreverence for authority, irreverence for anything or anyone ever that stands over and casts a shadow upon them, and which is to say abrogates their conscience. So I'm very good at speaking to that kind of stuff to youngsters, and they really get it, because the only reason why adolescents and teenagers get fucked up is because that foundational noble expression within them is not saluted by their family or by their instructors. It's not seen, much less.
It's not even validated. Yeah, I was going to say.
Not validated. Exactly right. But that's all that we need to do with these our blessed youngsters is to acknowledge them and see them. Whenever any of us are seen, we feel good, and that's because to be truly seen by another living soul is to receive the photons, which is to say the light from central sun, which is streaming through the kundalini and through the pineal, coming through the eyeballs, and literally plasma projecting towards us, and we radiate, we feel it. And that's the beauty of loving and being loved, and that's why that is ultimately our greatest capacity.
Let's just drink that in for a moment. I remember, Sacha, speaking with you at your house last year, and we were having a conversation about love, and I remember you telling me, oh, I'm not really into love, I call it grace. And I've, as I've been listening to you over this year, because I never actually listened to any of your videos. I knew about you, my dad was a fan, I knew about the New Earth Project and Humanitad, but I hadn't listened to anything, so I was kind of fresh. And then obviously this year I've listened to quite a number of your videos, and even in the last short while, maybe it's just the videos I've watched or something, but in the last month or so, I'm really hearing you talking about love, and it just my whole heart just expands. And it's that moment, isn't it? And I really hear you. And what you've said about the speaking to the teens, I feel like you're speaking to all of us. That's all of us can do that. I mean, how can we parent a child or parent anybody or be the guardian of or custodian of a soul into this world if we can't hold our own center first to then honor that young person? And if we could all take some of that medicine, I think it would be profound. And having that, I guess, that quantum moment as one soul truly sees another soul, it's like some quantum shift happens in that moment as well. Some point of absolute conscious co-creation is possible right there and then. That's how I saw it when you were saying that. I saw it very visually.
Well, that you just rumbled my game, because it is. I'm speaking to myself foundationally. Anything, wherever any of us impart wisdom, we're just remembering ourselves to ourselves.
It's true.
That's all it is. It's a process of that, and as long as we're mindful of that, I'll be honest with you. From time to time, I listen to my own ramblings and wheezings in order to learn, because I need to learn, and I don't. I hear myself saying certain things. I'm like, whoa, I heard that for the first time, watching myself on a video. And
I have the same thing. Yeah,
exactly.
I'm talking to myself.
Right. So it's a beautiful thing. Yeah.
That's why I feel like that's one of the reasons why I have to talk about this stuff so much, and that self-love is divine sovereign love, is unity consciousness love. It's not, but it starts here. And I feel like I ended up I never planned on doing this when I was a kid, as I'm sure you didn't plan on doing what you do when you're a kid, but somehow it arrives, you just follow the thing and keep going and keep like unwrapping a present. And I feel like the reason I talk about this so much is because I really needed to flipping well learn it, because there's been so many times in my life where I haven't held my center. I've gone, oh, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, or oh, I'll do that because I want to get something or serve them, or whatever, insecurity, whatever it was, where I didn't hold my center. And that's where I always have to come back and kind of forgive myself for doing that, and not blame myself and beat myself up and then create a shit show, but just because I'm upset with myself. It's like that's the reconciliation, isn't it, that you were talking about, coming into, what did you call it, atonement for the next?
Well, I'd say the next 10 years, linear years. We're moving beyond time anyway. So TikTok time is almost gone. I've been screaming about this since 2014.
Yeah.
But the need for us to psychologically dismantle the ideas that we have about time and remove this insane addiction to 1260 timekeeping. It's what programs death into our DNA and RNA. It's why we have disease and death and decay. And
false programming again, isn't
all
it?
of it's all of it's false programming. And the easiest thing in the world to do would be to simply relinquish ourselves from all clocks. So what it would do would immediately destroy the so-called matrix reality, would break down, almost immediately. So all the artifice of our lives, which is office blocks and concrete and asphalt and all of the disgusting concrete and steel infrastructure of cities and motorways, all of that stuff would move into rapid dissolution the minute we literally threw our watches away and removed any psycho-emotional connection to 1260 time. And we only start to look at the stars again and only start to listen to the rhythms and the pulses of the earth and get back into the 13-month calendar, a lunar calendar, until the bitch moon leaves our orbit altogether, which is also coming, that's on the cards. And when the moon eventually is steered back to whatever vector it emerged from about 6,000-7,000 years ago, whenever it came, I don't think they found any cave painting or petroglyph or hieroglyph older than 6,000 years that depicts the moon, incidentally. If anyone can show it to me, I'd be very interested.
Really?
Oh, no, it's a modern.
My dad's a big fan of my dad's a big fan of, sorry, I didn't mean to speak over you there, of George Cavasilis. And I don't know if you know George Cavasilis, or you ever spoken with him or watched his stuff. He was saying that the moon was a man-made object and was basically a space ship or something man-made. And when my dad was like saying this, this was back in 2012, and I was like, oh my God, my dad has completely lost it. He's dived too down the rabbit hole, you know. And you're saying.
Well, I was saying it a long time ago. I mean, I learned it from the last of the great, from Valon Votin, who is the reincarnation of the last of the Mayan high priests, who came back to Earth last century. And in the 1970s, he decoded the long count Solkin, which put 2012 on the map. And this is Jose Arguelles, the great shaman mystic. And I knew him well, and we had an extraordinary time together before he died. And I learned from him essentially that about the false signatures of time and dream spell versus dream time. And yeah, that's what it all comes down to. But that's going to be the great cosmic signature in our true awakening to supernature, is the moment at which we relinquish dream spell, which is all connected to TikTok, 1260 time.
Yeah.
And this false notion that there's 12 houses of the horoscope and 12 month calendars. All of that's a dislocation of reality intentionally in order to throw us and create a kind of civilizational dissonance. And that mutation or dissonance and incoherence that's been programmed into us as a cage system for mind, body, and soul. It's very clever stuff. But it's the moment at which we awaken our collective psionic intelligence. That's the moment that we relinquish ourselves from 1260 time. And that's what activates the noosphere. And the activating of the noosphere is what fractates and reconfigures all of the nested geometries of our earthly plane into the celestial, so-called Celestine template. And that's where we start to anchor instantaneously the patterns of perfection that self-exist and self-reveal and self-fulfill within the matrix. They will be able to anchor in. It's literally like one of those kaleidoscopes, whatever you call them, that you could, and you can see through it at one moment. It's just a black hole in the middle and white around it. Then you move it to 1 degree and boom, everything's fractated into this incredible multifarious kind of explosion of color and light. And it's that simple. In the similar way, this entire holonomic reality field that we live in is similarly calibrated, where all it takes is the correct calibration, one dial to the right or to the left under the appropriate circumstances. And the circumstances are connected to the collective psionic entanglement. And when that moves into to coherence, then we collectively plasma steer this earth plane and to where it's going. At the end of the day, planets are steered by the species that are anchored into the consciousness element. So we're all connected to it. So we talk about climate change. Yeah, whatever. That was a really clever game that was being played in order to subvert.
That was total bollocks from right beginnings. So a lot of people, I know, we're talking about time. I've run over time with you. I said I would try not to, and we have, and I'm really sorry, but I'm not sorry at the same time.
I've got 5% left on my computer, and then it's going
to let you go in a minute. You've been so generous. But I just wanted to say what you were talking about there, the 2012 thing. A lot of people felt like that would be the end of no time, didn't they? And it was that.
Yeah. Yes.
That kind of.
Well, but understand that 2012 was a kind of shockwave. It was really a shock blast or shockwave before the end. So it was, in a sense, you could even look at this last 7 years, or since 2012 to now, 8 years, you could see this as being a final cycle of completion into flatlining time. And that the 2012, look, the Mayan calendar is running 8 years behind the Gregorian Julian calendar, or the other way around, I can't remember which. But the point is they were not synced up. So in a sense, the dateline yesterday or 2 days ago, in a sense, was absolutely the closure of that.
Oh, you could feel it. It was tangible. And on 2012, I remember thinking, you know, I believed all this stuff my dad had told me, and I was waiting, you know, and I was like, all the prophecies are going to come true. And not just for my dad, but, you know,
no, but it was real.
Waiting for peace on earth.
Well, it was real. It was real, Tara. It was real. I was with the Mayan Council in Chichen Itza in Mexico at the pyramid in 2012 doing ceremony. I was there. I saw what I saw that night. We saw stuff in the sky that is otherworldly, absolute. I'll never forget as long as I live. It's very, very powerful and very beautiful.
I could have been with you. It wasn't that fun where I was.
Yeah, that was real. What happened in 2012? What happened in 1987 in August with the harmonic convergence? Yeah. I'm going to be also tomorrow with my friends going to be unveiling the frequencies of what happened 3 days ago. Wait for it. What we took the frequency readings of the 20th, the 21st, and today. Yeah. So, or 22nd, yesterday. So we know what spike happened on the 21st.
Could feel
and we know we did the harmonic convergence as well in 1987. We've got those readings, and we also did 2012. So we're going to be announcing those tomorrow on the show. And it's really interesting stuff because, again, this is scalar, double-blind placebo. This is what it is.
Yeah, another validation for people, because that's the thing, isn't it? We can feel it, but then it's almost like we still need that validation, that proof in a way to have faith in our own selves. And absolutely, you know, here's to zero time, here's to reducing everything back to absolute. Yeah. And let's go forth and prosper and create beauty in heaven on earth together. And I'll see you in that Merkaba, Sacha.
Indeed. Well, we all will. That's going to be an art and a science that is remembered to us very, very soon, either which way.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great pleasure.
Absolutely brilliant.
Have a wonderful, wonderful new year.
And happy Christmas. We'll see you tomorrow. I think a lot of us will be hopping on there with you. Good night. God bless. Loads of love. Bye. Oh my goodness, guys, how I didn't even have time to look up and connect to any of your comments. So I hope you absolutely enjoyed that. I really look forward to reading your questions or your feedback from your experience of this. And please, if you think anything that was shared there was interesting or curious or valuable or fantastic or absolutely mind-blowingly brilliant, please do go ahead and share this video with your friends and family and followers. And I completely agree. Let's just create from this place forward. Let's self-forgive, forgive others. There's no room for any of that stuff anymore. There's no room for fear. This is absolute heart, pure love, manifestation. Go be yourself. I love you so much. Thanks for watching. See you next time. God bless.